30, Witchy, and Thriving. With me, Sally Nightmare. Hey, all you witches and ghouls, and welcome back to another episode of Tarot Sundays. So I thought that I would do today's Tarot Sunday episode a little differently. I know that I have been going through and talking about the individual suits, kind of what they are and what they mean, but I thought for today's episode that I would kind of go through and kind of show you what my typical Sunday morning routine looks like when I'm doing self-care. Sunday mornings is typically for me, and I do tarot spread for myself. Today it's a little bit differently. I stayed up way too late last night, binge watching the first couple episodes of season 3 of Bridgerton. So Sally did not go to bed until 2, 3 o'clock this morning. So she's just waking up. I look a hot mess express, but that's okay. But typically how I do my tarots for myself. Normally on Sundays, I am the first person awake in the house, so it's nice, it's quiet, everybody's still sleeping, and I don't have to worry about any interruptions or anything like that. Today, like I said, it's a little bit different. I kind of slept in. So people are up and moving in the house. So you may or may not hear some movement, but that's okay. But I already got my blackberry tea made for this morning. And I'll kind of show you the other materials and things that I have out. So, of course, our tarot book that has what the tarots are in traditional. For myself, for self-divination, I've been using this book here, which I'll just kind of randomly open. Kind of goes over different things, has some prompts, and I'll put the names of all these in the description as well. And then, of course, I have my tarot journal. This journal is used for just strictly tarot, nothing else. I guess what you would call my tarot shadow work. There you go. That's the words I'm looking for. But this book is strictly just for that only. And of course, a handy dandy pencil. Normally when I'm doing my tarot as well, I get super hungry sometimes. So I always have like little granola bars or something close by as well. Because I typically don't like to eat breakfast before going into my personal reading. I feel like it makes me kind of sluggish. But once I am in it, when I kind of get through doing that self-reflection, I'm like, oh man, it takes a lot. It can take a lot out of you. And so that's why I always recommend having a snack nearby. I have my tea, but you can also have like some water or juice, soda, something else nearby that kind of helps you out. Another thing that you can't see that's kind of behind the scenes is I do light my incense as well, and I typically like to use frankincense when I'm doing any type of like tarot work, shadow work, rituals, things like that, pending what I'm doing. That kind of seems to be my go-to, and I feel like that kind of gets me into that spiritual mood the most. And so, like I said, we'll go through. I'll kind of show you. Oh yeah, and then obviously the tarot deck, the most important part of the entire reason why we're here, my Nightmare Before Christmas tarot deck. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of show you how I shuffle my cards, kind of how I pick what card I want for the day. And I think this week I am going to do just kind of like a check-in card. And then we'll kind of go through and I'll talk about that as well. When we're going through when I'm going through my little Almanac book here, let me get to May. It goes through and it has some different cards and things that can be associated with the month that you're in. And of course, my book is not wanting to cooperate with me. There we go. And so, like, for instance, we're in May, so this is the artwork for May. And so when you're going through, it kind of gives you a list of cards that are associated with May, and then how to do some self-reflection with those cards. I'm not going to be doing that for today's episode because, like I said, that's a little bit more personal. But like I said, I am going to kind of do like a mini pull, and I'll kind of show you how I pull, and it's just going to be a singular card. And then we'll kind of go from there. Like I said, we'll go into the details and talk about the card. So, without further ado, let's get into that part of this episode. So, what I like to do when I first get my deck out is I like to shuffle it, probably a good 3 to 4 times, making sure that I am getting these cards well shuffled, getting them in between, separating where I feel is appropriate and correct. I do not do any of like the bridge folding that you would in traditional, like playing cards, 21, things like that. As for, I want to preserve how well the cards are holding up, and I feel like that is a lot of abuse on your tarot cards. So once I get everything shuffled pretty well, I will put it back into a straight little deck. And for a 1 card spread, I will typically do the fan method. And so once I have them fanned out, then I take a second, I take in the cards and feel what is drawn to me. Sometimes I'll touch the card, sometimes I'll meditate. And once I kind of find a card, I very carefully pull it out from all the rest of the cards and lay it face down in front of me where I cannot see it. I will then fold up my deck and place the deck back down in a safe place. Once I am ready and I take a second and I ask my intentions, my questions, or whatever my tarot reading is going to be for that day, I will flip the card over. I will take a second, I will look at it, I will take in the imagery, think about how it makes me feel. And once I take a few minutes for that, I will pull out the tarot guidebook that came with the deck, flip to the page that the card is on, and I will read about the card in the position I pull it or flip it, meaning if it's upright or reversed. And so I'll take a second to read that. Alrighty, and so once I'm done reading and I take a second to take in what I read, I will put this one down, and then I will grab my secondary book that talks about tarot cards in a traditional sense. I will use the index to find said book, card, because that's all the cards listed. And then once I do, I will turn to the page. And again, I will take a second to read how I pulled the card, whether it's upright or reversed, take in what this book is saying, and then kind of go from there. So I'm going to take a second to read this to myself. And then once I get done reading both of these books, or these sections of the books, oftentimes I will reflect about what I was reading, what I was feeling, the imagery on said card, drink some tea, things like that. Think about the question that I had asked when the card was pulled, so your intention. And then that's when the journaling comes into play. And I will write down, your date at the top, what card I pulled, how I pulled it, how I was feeling, and kind of go through and working all the steps. But I'm not going to show you that here on the episode. So let's kind of pull this back up to my face here. And so just kind of a quick run through. I paused in between because I do take a lot of time when reading and feeling what the cards are and things like that. I will be putting up what the card is, what it means, and things like that, going over it. And so this is the card that we pulled during today's tarot. Um, so yeah, that's kind of the basics of what I do on Sunday mornings. Now, if I am using the Almanac, then what I will do is I will typically pull out the card that it's referencing to as a way of getting to know the card. And then, because I am still learning my deck, like for instance, this is the first time I've ever pulled the World, so it's pretty exciting. But when I'm doing the Tarot Almanac, I will go through the deck and I will pull that particular card out. I will take the time, kind of do the same steps, take in the imagery, how I'm feeling, look at what it says. Sometimes I'll even use outside sources out of these two books. This is just what I physically have on hand today. But I do further research on these cards as well, because every interpretation can be a little bit different. Get a little tea break here. And then, I'll go to my journal and I will answer the little prompt questions, and that's kind of how I get my shadow work in as well. And then we can kind of have an episode on shadow work later on, because there's a lot that can be entailed to it. This is just kind of how I have been doing it, and it seems to work for me, but it's different for everyone. So keep that in mind. If tarot is not your cup of tea, then find out what that is for you. Alrighty, so to get into the stuff that you guys really want to hear. So the card that we pulled was the World, and I will have this up so that way you guys can see during the video while I'm talking, but I did pull it in the upright position when going into this Sunday's reading. What I asked for was just some type of like confirmation or like encouragement that I was going within the right path, and I am not disappointed. So when this card is pulled, whether it is in the upright or the reversed, it is representing some type of completion of like a life-changing adventure of some sort. So with the, and I don't think I've said this in the past, so with the tarot deck, this is considered a major arcade, and in The Nightmare Before Christmas, the major arcades are representative of the story of Jack in the movie. And so with this card, it's when he comes up to the forest scene where it has all the different holidays. And so he has to kind of choose what he wants to do. So kind of keep that in mind. That's with this particular deck. But I'll show what it looks like in regular tarot as well, in a more traditional type setting. And I know I haven't really gotten into the main differences between major and minor, so we'll kind of work in all that in the future as well. And so when you pull this card, again, regardless if it's upright or reversed, things you're going to kind of think about or kind of get that idea of is just obviously spiritual awareness. It could mean that you're referencing to like the universe, maturity, the divine, your emotions, or there's even maybe some type of hidden component somewhere that you don't really know about. And that's just for that card in general. Now, for today, I'm only going to talk about it in the upright position since that is how the card was pulled for today. We can always go back and talk about it in the reverse position later on. And so when you pull this card upright like we did today, basically it's kind of keywords to think about is like mastery, completion, or like fulfillment. So again, whether it kind of relates to some of those other keywords. For me, I think this card resonated more so on like spiritual awareness and maturity, at least for me, because I feel like within my spiritual journey, I am starting to mature. I'm starting to be more open and happy. So for me, that is how I resonated with this card in upright. And so, kind of think of it, you've kind of been on this really long emotional roller coaster ride. But you are finally getting to that point where you are basically grabbing it by the horns or by the balls or however you want to say that. And you're feeling very open and powerful. You're feeling satisfied at whatever the situation may be, and you're starting to feel that happiness. And a good phrase to think about as well when this card is an upright. They say that you are now at that point with whatever the situation is, that you have that ability to inspire other people by sharing your story. So again, this kind of resonates with me because I'm to that point where I'm comfortable with sharing and expressing my spirituality. And so I'm hoping that by talking to you guys, I can inspire somebody or even give you that courage that you may have not have had previously. So I thought that was really cool. Some questions to think about and keep in mind when you're in this with this card is like, how are you feeling right now? What emotions are you feeling? So yes, the card typically is your journey's at an end. But just because a quote unquote journey is at an end, it doesn't mean that it is over. So, for instance, for me, spirituality, it never ends. You are always growing, improving, and learning new things. So, you kind of have to kind of think about it like, yes, you're joyful, you're happy, you're at that point. Um, but are you but are you sad that that part of your journey has ended? And why? And what can you work on? And then again, like I said, your journey is never really over. You have more. You're always going to be going and moving. So what is the new? What are you going to be preparing for? How are you going to move forward with this accomplishment you've already had? And don't forget to take a step back and appreciate your path. Use what you've learned to grow in the future, for all the future endeavors that you're going to endure. And take time, celebrate your accomplishments, enjoy the moment, enjoy the little things. Because if you're not taking joy and pride in those accomplishments, then you're really just going through the motions and you're not really enjoying life. For example, and I think I may have talked about it before, I have been sitting out on the back porch and have been watching like the birds and the lightning bugs. And to me, that is taking a moment. I'm sitting out in nature. I'm enjoying the fresh air and seeing these wildlife. And especially I get really excited with the lightning bugs. um, I'm taking that time for myself to enjoy the moment, to enjoy where I'm at, to enjoy my accomplishments, and taking those little minute things. And I'm like, okay, yes. And you can ask my husband. I get really excited. I'm like, oh my gosh, did you see that bug? Um, and so that's my way of celebrating. And I know that sounds weird because it's not like a specific like topic or journey, but for me it makes sense because it is part of my journey. And then you also, when you get this card as well, after you take those times for appreciation and celebration, it's kind of as a reminder of hey, start looking ahead. How can you build on this? How can you continue to grow? Because life is full of multiple journeys, multiple you know scenarios, and they never end. You just keep growing and thriving, and so you have a lifetime to go with learning all of these things. And so that's kind of just like the basic gist of this card in the upright position. Let me drink some tea here. I'm a little parched. And again, this is my blackberry tea that I've been making, which I am like totally in love with. But yeah, so that's kind of the gist of this card in the upright position. And like I said, we can go in and talk about it in the reverse position later on. But for now, I think this is a good place to kind of part. I really hope that you guys enjoyed this version of today's episode, and definitely let me know what you think. If this is something that you want to try to do again in the future, definitely let me know. I want to be able to get you guys the information that you want about tarot, so that way you guys can learn, I can learn, we can have fun together, and we keep going. So yeah, let me know what you think, and happy Sunday. Thanks for joining me, and I will see you guys very soon. Bye.